I'm reading from Starting Strength, Basic Barbell Conditioning, 3rd edition by Mark Rippetoe. This is a favorite book of mine, and I'm going to read the deadlift section, which is Chapter 4. Chapter 4, the deadlift. Lower back strength is an important component of sports conditioning. The ability to maintain a rigid lumbar spine under a load is critical for both power transfer and safety. The deadlift builds back strength better than any other exercise bar none. And back strength built with deadlift is useful. While the bar is most ergonomically friendly tool for lifting heavy weight, a 405-pound barbell deadlift makes an awkward 85-pound box more manageable. The basic function of the lumbar muscles is to hold the lower back in position so the power can be transferred through the trunk. They are aided in this task by all the muscles of the trunk, the abs, the obliques, the intercostals, and all of the many posterior muscles of the upper lower back. These muscles function in isometric contraction. Their main task is to prevent skeletal movement in the structures they are supporting. When the trunk is held rigid, it can function as a solid segment, along with the force generated by the hips and legs can be transferred to the load, which will lie on the shoulders as in the squat or the leg press, or go across the shoulder blades and down the arms to the hands as in the deadlift. There is no easy way to do a deadlift, one which doesn't involve actually picking up the bar, which explains their lack of popularity in most gyms around the world. The deadlift is a simple movement. The bar is pulled with straight arms off the floor up the legs until the knees, hips, and shoulders are locked out. Immense weight have been moved in this way by very strong men. In powerlifting, the deadlift is the last lift in the meet, and the expression, "the meet don't start till the bar gets on the floor," is very telling. Many big subtotals have been overcome by strong deadlifts, especially in the days before squat suits and bench shirts. The meet was often won by a lifter with the bigger deadlift than his squat. It is hard to overstate the strength of the man with an 800-pound deadlift, a feat accomplished by only elite lifters. 900-pound contest deadlifts are more common than they used to be, although many more lifters have done them with straps, which eliminate the grip strength aspect of the lift. The deadlift is brutally hard and can therefore complicate training if improperly used. It is very easy to do wrong, and wrong deadlift is potentially a dangerous thing. There will be a few trainees who simply cannot perform this movement safely and with heavy weights due to a previous injury or inability to perform the movement correctly. The deadlift is also easy to overtrain. A heavy workout takes a long time to recover from, and you must keep the fact that in mind when setting up your training schedule. For the vast majority of lifters, the deadlift should be an essential part of training. It is the primary back strength exercise, and it is an important assistance exercise for the squat, and especially for the clean, for which it is an important introductory lesson in the position and pulling mechanics. The deadlift also serves as a way to train the mind to do things that are hard. There are two ways to perform the deadlift: used in competition, the conventional with the feet inside the grip, and sumo style with the feet outside the grip. The sumo style wide stance produces the effect of shorter legs, thereby allowing for more vertical back angle and a shorter movement arm along the trunk segment, thus reducing the effective load on the trunk segment. This shortening is similar to the effects of a snatch grip in Olympic weightlifting, which produces artificially short arms for the purpose of reducing the distance the bar travels to lock out overhead. Since our purpose is the development of lower back strength through the effective use of exercises that work the lower back muscles, the sumo deadlift will not be used in this program. First, some general observations about the deadlift in no particular order. It can be used as a leg exercise if injury prevents squatting. It is not nearly as effective as a squat for this purpose due to the lack of hip depth used in starting position. But this is the very reason it can be used if a knee or hip injury makes squats too difficult or painful. And at least some leg work can be done while healing takes place. A high rep deadlift workout can provide enough work to maintain some leg conditioning, even if the injury sometimes, such as a groin pull or a not too severe quad tear, that would prevent the lifter from doing heavier low rep deadlifts. Tremendous leg power can be exerted in the deadlift starting position, which uses essentially a half squat depth. So the challenge is usually to keep your back tight to break the bar off the floor. Quad strength is seldom the limiting factor in the deadlift. Although the hamstrings strength often is, the bar gets past the knees with the back staying flat enough. The legs can lock out what the back can support. If the bar stays on the floor, the problem is either the grip, an injury producing sufficient pain to distract from the pull, a lack of experience with pulling a heavy weight that would rather stay there, or just too much weight on the bar. A deadlift requires the production of force from a dead stop, thus the name. Deadlifts differ from squats in more that just depth at the bottom. Deadlift starts with the deadlift starts with a concentric contraction and ends with an eccentric contraction. The squat begins eccentrically as the bar is lowered from lockout, and then returns to the lockout with concentric contraction, as in the bench press. To review, an eccentric contraction occurs when the muscle lengthens under tension, and a concentric contraction occurs when the muscle shortens during tension. Muscles don't flex, they contract. Joints flex and extend. Sometimes referred to as the negative, the eccentric phase usually lowers a weight, whereas the concentric phase raises it. The stretch reflex occurs at the transition between the lowering and the raising, and many studies have shown that a muscle contracts harder concentrically than this contraction is preceded by a stretch, which is the very thing provided by eccentric contraction. Demonstrate this to yourself by trying to do a vertical jump without dipping to start the jump, or try applying this principle to barbell curls by starting them from the top instead of from the bottom. The down phase, if used skillfully, makes up much easier, but a deadlift is not preceded by any loaded stretch reflex, no matter how much drama and hip movement the lifter engages in before the pull. Much of the effect provided by the eccentric concentric transition comes from the viscoelastic energy stored in the muscles and tendons that are elongating under the load trip to the bottom of the range of the motion. If there is no loaded trip, there is no energy to store. The deadlift starts at the mechanically hardest part of the movement and requires the lifter to generate the entire explosion necessary to break the bar off of the floor and get it moving without any help from a negative or anything else. Grip strength is crucial to the deadlift, and the deadlift works grip strength better than any other major exercise. It is the limiting factor for many lifters with small hands or short fingers, or for lifters who rely too much on their straps when training. The lift is famous for its alternating grip to extend that many people use it just because they are deadlifting and they think that that's just what you do when you deadlift. Using the double overhanded grip as much as possible makes for stronger hands, and keeps the stress on the shoulder symmetrical. The alternating grip prevents the bar from rolling in the hands, since it is always rolling up one hand as much as rolling down the other. In contrast, the straight double overhanded grips makes you squeeze the bar. So if all the warm-ups possible are done with a double overhanded grip, the alternating grip is reserved for really heavy sets. Novices are often able to pull their heaviest sets with a double overhanded grip because their hands can be stronger than their backs. More advanced lifters find that they need to flip a hand over to an alternating grip when the weight gets very heavy. Most lifters prefer the non-dexterous hand for the supine or underhanded side of the alternating grip. For those not intending to deadlift at a meet, straps may be a logical choice for a heavy set, since using one supine hand and one prone produces asymmetrical strength on the shoulders, can cause or aggravate bicep tendon problems on the supine side in some people, and has a tendency to push the bar forward of the midfoot on the supine side due to bicep tendon tension. Your decision to strap the heavy sets will be based on personal preference, flexibility, training goals. If you do your warm-ups without straps and go as heavy as you can, your grip will still get most of the benefit of the exercise, but without the supine side shoulder problems that sometimes accompany the alternating grip. Anybody who has trained the deadlift for a few months has had experience of pulling on a weight that seemed too heavy even to break off the ground when tried with a double overhanded grip, only to find that it goes up surprisingly easily when the grip is alternated. The back will not pull off the floor what the hands cannot hold due to proprioceptive feedback that tells the back that the weight is too heavy. When the grip is flipped and the hands don't slip as the load increases off the floor, the back doesn't receive the signal that makes it stop the pull. A long, heavy deadlift can be dropped from higher up the legs with any style of grip, but most lifters cannot even break weight off the floor that is so heavy that it opens the hands at the start of the pull. Deadlift straps have a place in training, but judgment must be exercised here. They can cause as many problems as they solve. Straps can allow heavier back training if the grip is limiting factor, or they can cause grip to be limiting factor by preventing it from getting strong if they are used too often with too light a weight. The hands are prone to callus formation as a normal part of training. All lifters have calluses and need them to protect their hands from blisters and tears. Skin adapts to stress like all other tissues do. Skin thickens precisely where it receives the stress of the abrasion and folding. Calluses are bad only if they are excessive, and gripping the bar incorrectly causes excessive callus formation. Most lifters do this and have never considered the role of the grip in the callus formation. Heavy calluses tear frequently, usually on the distal palmar crease and often into the base of the ring finger because ring wearer has already produced starter calluses there. A torn callus makes the rest of the meet a challenge, eased only by some lidocaine gel that you might have in the gym bag if this has happened to you before. But if the bar is gripped correctly, calluses build up is kept minimal and the problem is not nearly as bad. When you're setting the grip, if you place the bar in the middle of your palm and wrap your fingers from there, a fold forms at the distal end of your palm right before the area where your fingers start. When you pull the bar up, gravity shoves the fold further down toward your fingers, increasing the fold and stress on this part of the skin. A callus forms here as a result, and the presence of the callus amplifies the folding problem by making the fold even thicker. If you grip the bar further down toward your fingers to begin with, it can't slide down much because it's already there. This is actually where the bar needs to be, since gravity will pull it there eventually. And since the bar should stop there anyway, you might as well start in this position. You also get the advantage of having less far to pull the bar. If it is further down in your fingers, then your chest is higher and your position off the floor is easier. The bar locks out further down your thigh, and the bar has a shorter distance it has to move before being locked out. Equipment can contribute to callus formation, and this fact applies to all lifts. A bar with an excessively sharp knurl is an annoying thing to have use in the weight room. Older bars usually have better knurls than newer bars. Either the older ones are worn smooth or they are made more correctly. It seems that companies decided to start making Texas Chainsaw Massacre knurls in about 1990. Bad knurls can improve with a big mill file and about an hour's work. Chalk is important for hand safety. It keeps the skin dry and tight, making folding under a load less of a problem. You should apply chalk before you start training every day for all the lifts. If your gym is one of those that do not allow chalk for reasons of cleanliness or perception, you need to reevaluate your choices of gyms. Gloves have no place in a serious training program. A glove is merely a piece of loose stuff between the hand and the bar, reducing grip security and increasing the effective diameter of the bar. Gloves make bars harder to hold on to. The gloves that incorporate wrist wraps prevent the wrist from getting used to training. The only legitimate use for gloves is to cover an injury like a torn callus or a cut. When the workout is important enough to do with the injury and it cannot be done without the covering, a desire to prevent callus formation does not constitute a legitimate use. If your gym makes a lot of money selling gloves, you have another reason to look for a different gym. And if you insist using them, make sure they match your purse. It's funny. Deadlifts are hard. Many people don't like to do them. Most people, even the ones who will squat heavy and often and correctly will leave the deadlifts out of the workout at the slightest provocation. This is the reason most lifters squat more than they deadlift. There was often no time to do them in the program, but doing them adds back strength, and back strength is necessary for all the other lifts and for other sports, work, and life. So let's learn how to do them.